Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another Tactical Baby Gear episode. This podcast, things get heated. Alex and I talk about some problems keeping your kids in beds. I come in with some heat. My daughter gets nominated for an Academy Award. All kinds of things happening. It's good. It's interesting. It's real life. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. What's the worst combination of two sicknesses? Diarrhea and Alzheimer's. You're running, but you don't know where. That's funny. What up, dude? It took us like a month to sit down and do this podcast. Not really. Like several days, though.
Yes.
We are way behind in life right now. Lots of things happening.
Very behind.
What's today? Tuesday the 3rd. Black Friday. Black Friday was great. Cyber Monday's been crazy. But before that, we had Thanksgiving.
Yes.
How was your Thanksgiving?
My Thanksgiving was pretty chill, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, for the most part, as it relates to like the preparing of food and being with family. So my parents, my wife's parents are all local. So we went to my parents for like the big Thanksgiving dinner, and then we went over to my in-laws earlier in the day. But like it was very easy in that regard. Thankfully, I didn't have to load up all my kids and travel hours on 95 and do all the stuff that most people listening probably had to do.
I did it.
So I thankfully got away with not having to do that. But my kids were acting up, but like the stress of the holiday, and thankfully I get along with my immediate family and my in-law family and everything else. We all get along. So that there was no stress. Kids just acting up was stressful, but they're 3.5, the twins are, so as to be expected. Yeah. But we got through it, and the biggest stress was like the week leading up to it because they're all out of school. So it's like, what do you do with them for the extra 5 days that you normally don't have them? Yeah,
it's stressful. Trev, can you turn my headphones up a little bit?
Sorry. Yeah, I don't hear you as well in the microphone.
Yeah, it seems a little soft.
What about you?
I don't even remember. This past week has been an absolute just whirlwind and just madness and chaos and all the things. I don't even know, but there's mixed emotions about it. We had a great time. There was fun times. There was pissed off times. My kids have been testing me so much lately. My oldest in particular, Cameron, who's 8.5-ish now, and I think I'm going to nominate her for an Academy Award. She commits to an acting out something to get what she wants on a level I have never seen before from a kid. But then that makes me wonder if she's actually not faking it. So I have all these mixed emotions. It's been crazy.
Well, we had talked about previously that she'll try to get out of going to school. So you cough, and all of a sudden she's like, "Oh yeah, I got a cough," and she'll act that out, right?
Right, and she goes.
But so you're talking about
committed. So
illness,
recently,
or I want a toy, and so now I'm going to do some elaborate plan to get this.
No, it's always she has a hard time sleeping in her own bed. First it was her own room, then it was her own bed, and then my way of solving, she felt like she needed to sleep with somebody else in the room. So then I put their beds back together as bunk beds. If anybody watched this on Instagram months ago, that was to help solve this problem of her sleeping because she didn't want to be alone. I was like, okay, well, I'll put the bunk beds back together. Top bunk, bottom bunk. Well, then that turned into her crawling out of her bed and crawling into Kendall's bed, which is waking up Kendall, which is she's not getting good sleep. Now, Kendall's a great sleeper. She's I'm like, hey, good night, see you, bye. And I don't see her till the morning. She's awesome.
But you said she's an early riser, though, right?
I don't think, yes, but only because I think Cameron wakes her up at 5 a.m. And she's like, go wake up mom and dad and ask him if this, or she always gets conned into doing something because Cameron is the master manipulator.
Gotcha.
It's becoming a real problem. It's it's impressive, but really annoying. I'm the shit that comes out of my mouth and Brandy's mouth when we're trying to figure out what is going on. We're looking at each other what the do we do right now? I don't know how to deal with this. I'm at 11 o'clock last night. I'm threatening to take Cameron to the emergency room because that's how like she's like, I just can't sleep and I don't feel good and I'm gonna throw up and da da da. And I'm like, well, you need to take some medicine, take some Pepto-Bismol, take the da 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 whatever. Yeah. She's like, no, it's gonna make me sick. I'm like, no, it's not. It's gonna help you from being sick. And anyways, I'll go back a little bit because this has been happening for like a week and a half now, since just before Thanksgiving. It's been out of control. So it was like Wednesday night, I think. There was no school.
Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And there's no school Thursday. So she's had it in her mind. She's like, I'm not going to school tomorrow, which every kid goes like, yeah, I don't have school tomorrow. Awesome. Well, then she like, anything that gets her off of like normal ruins everything. So like if I'm like 5 minutes late to putting her to bed from like her normal time, game over. This is going to happen until midnight.
So I'm intrigued hearing that because your flexible parenting style compared to mine, you are a lot more flexible in the sense that like your kids have always been more like, well, we happen to be out of the home and you'll get home when we get home and you'll go to bed. But yet you're telling me if...
Oh, yeah, dude. Like there's certain things I'm super, like trying to get her to bed, in her bed by 8:30 p.m. is like my line in the sand. Like I'll do whatever.
So you'll keep a kid out at 8 and then they'll just be like slam getting in bed at 8:30. Like you always had that?
I'm like, hey, Brandy, we got to go. Like we need to get the check and leave. It's 8:05. We got 25 minutes to get home, get them in pajamas, get their teeth brushed, get her in bed. Like, because after that, it's game over.
See that? Okay. So there's actually more layers to the Be Flexible Parenting story than I knew.
More so recently. You know, like it hasn't always been that way. But in the past year, 100%.
Because it'll be like 4:30, and I'll be like, well, like like the kid's got to be in bed at 7:30. Like I can't be out of the house.
Right.
I mean, I'm not that bad. I exaggerate, but nevertheless.
But yeah, like I mean, we do things like last weekend, it was over the weekend. Like Tatiana and Zach were watching one of our other kids or other friends' kids, and they were like, hey, we're at dispensary getting some dinner and da. And I was like, well, they were going to be there, and that was like they weren't going to be there till like 7 or 7:30. And Brandy's like, oh, we should go meet them. I'm like, well, what time? And it's like 3:30, 4 o'clock at this point. She's like, well, they're not going to be there till like 7. I'm like, nope. I'm like, I'm not, first of all, I'm not waiting to get there till 7 because it's going to take us at least 30 or 40 minutes at dispensary to like get a table on like a Saturday night, to get a table, to get food. Like we're not going to be home till 10 o'clock. And none of us have eaten lunch. And it's like 3:30, 4 o'clock. Like we need to just go eat now. And then maybe if there's time, like we meet them for a few minutes and hang out for a few minutes, and then we're splitting, which is what we ended up doing. And it was fine. It was great. And we were there till just after 8. And I was like, all right, we are out of here. But she pulls this crap. I mean, I don't even know what else to call it. But like she's always for a very long time, pulled it's time to go to bed. Something is an illness problem to get out of sleeping in her own bed, to either sleep in my bed early on, and we're like, all right, this ain't happening anymore, like because we had given in a few times, and then it was like, all right, screw that. So then it became make a bed on the floor in my room, and that has become not a problem. I just don't let her win at it because I'm like, no, this is not happening more. So for a long time, it was my knee hurts. My knee hurts. Rub my knee. I need to rub my knee. So
it was always
I can't sleep.
an ailment as opposed to like, I need water.
Like you would think this
read me
kid
another
was
book.
Dying.
Gotcha.
Like it's bad. And I'm like, wait a minute. You just did gymnastics for 4 hours, and then you came home and you did more gymnastics, and you're doing flips on the trampoline, and now you're telling me you can't sleep because you don't feel good. You're like, and early on she was complaining about her knee. I was like, well, shoot, maybe all this gymnastics has like got her knee. You know, I'm like. So I'm like rubbing her knee and putting deep blue on her knee and doing all these things. And I'm like, I think she was just playing me the whole time. But I never really called her BS on the knee thing because I thought the knee could have actually been a thing. Like we asked the doctor about it on her like yearly checkups or this or like, oh, well, you've got a checkup in 2 weeks. We'll ask the doctor about it, you know? And they're like, no, everything seems fine. You know, like, all right, damn it. Like, I was kind of hoping you might find something that we could fix that stop this problem, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, so then it's progressed from that to like, I don't feel good, my stomach hurts, I can't sleep and all this stuff. And now it's gotten to like, I'm gonna throw up. And like a few nights ago, she threw up and she had really bad diarrhea. So I was like, okay, she actually doesn't feel good. This is like the night before Thanksgiving. But up to that point, gymnastics and flips and jumping off the couch and doing all the things right up until bedtime. And then it was, I don't feel, and she's like so good. And I'm like, do I believe you? Do I not believe? Wait, but there's no school tomorrow, so you're not trying to get out of school. So like, what's going on here? And I'm like, what in the world? How do I deal with this? So, and then it's like, it's like we're fighting with this till all hours of the night. I mean, literally, it's probably midnight. I'm like, get back in your bed. We're not doing this. And she had thrown up a few times. So then I kind of got softer. I was like, all right, she's actually sick. Like, I'll rub your back. I'll take care of you. We'll hold your hair. Like, it's so funny. I'm like holding my daughter's hair while she throws up like she's like some college girl, you know what I mean? It's the most awkward, like, because it's not even like awkward, but like in the moment you're like this is such a college situation where you're like holding some girl's hair while she's puking.
How do you handle throw up well?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
See, oh man, like my kid, I don't know, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, he was like, I don't feel good, I'm gonna throw up, and I'm like, we're like progressing. Like, thank you for telling me.
Let's for the
get
warning.
out of the. Let's get, like, you opened the door and like started hollering for us, and sure enough, like we at least got him close to the bathroom, so it's like a contained spill.
Right.
But oh man, I walk in there, it's like, and then so I'm trying to do, and I'm like,
I do fine with that stuff, but I think it's
it.
because of my car background. I'm so used to having like just weird stuff all over me and greases and fluids and oils and gasoline.
But it's like something about that smell that I just struggle bust with.
I don't know. It doesn't bother me.
Like I get that way even on like the wrong sort of number 2 with my children. You're like,
you're like one gagging.
Like, I think I saw was that a video? Some dude was like almost at like an airport on like the floor doing one, and he like it was so bad. He turned and had to like throw him in like his bag or something.
I don't do well like seeing that kind of stuff on TV. Like if I'm like I remember like seeing like a nose surgery on TV or something, and they're like chiseling at someone's face with a hammer and a chisel, and I'm like, you know, or like seeing some like surgery on TV. Like I don't do well in person. No problem. Like that poor lady that broke her leg in wherever I was, and her like femurs hanging out of her leg and all this stuff. No problem. Good to go. But on TV, I'm like, but I think it's adrenaline too.
See, that's like, one thing they don't prep you for when you're like, you need to go through like a parenting class, and it needs to just be like, I'm going to send you random smells today.
Oh my God.
Here's a random cream. You need to rub that cream on your shirt because you're going to smell that all day and look at it. It's like vomit. I constantly am looking at my shirt. I'm like, what? Where did this come from, and what does it smell like, and why do I have this smell? And it's like something from your kids.
Like, all right, well, back to my story before we get off on too much of a tangent. So, where was I? So she actually throws up. She's got like diarrhea, really bad. So I feel bad for her. So eventually, it's like I'm like, okay, everyone's trying to go to sleep. Like you're screaming and crying. Your sister's waking up. Brandy's like dead tired. We got Thanksgiving crap to do in the morning. Like I'm just gonna make you a bed on the floor. Like we just all need to go to sleep at this point. Make her bed on the floor. Next morning, wakes up, never says a word about it. Oh, I feel so much better, or oh, I still feel sick. Like wakes up and is out of the room, gone, and like I didn't hear a word. And I'm like, cool. I'm not gonna bring it up. I don't want to remind her. And we're just gonna pretend like this didn't happen because at this point, I don't want to stir anything up. I want to continue with my day.
All of a sudden, her tummy does actually hurt again because.
So at dinner, Thanksgiving dinner. At my grandfather's house, Brandy. Well, I start with the hey, we need to start getting ready to go soon because it's like 7:30, and I'm like, she's sleeping in her own bed tonight. I'm not dealing with this nonsense.
Yeah.
So as soon as I start trying to round everyone up, she's like, oh crap, we need to go home. It's dark outside. Bedtime soon. I don't feel good. All of a sudden, I'm like, wait a second. You were just wrestling with your cousins, doing handstands and all this crap. And now that it's time to go, and I just said when we get home, we're going to brush our teeth and start getting ready for bed, you don't feel good. Ironic. And it just turn it on, crank it up to 11 with the acting. It was incredible. And so then
do you have to fight them like even to getting in a car seat at this point?
No.
Or is it like limp, almost crying, like wailing?
I don't have to do car seats like that. Like, my kids, they just open their own door and get in their own car seat.
So even if they're like wailing and crying and acting, they'll still just hobble up there and get in there?
They'll get in there crying, but
gotcha.
and they're usually fighting with each other to like who's getting in first, and someone's climbing over someone, and I'm like punching both of them. But yeah, I mean, that is super nice though. It's like get in the car and they can like open the door themselves and climb in and put their seatbelts on.
Because when my kids throw their tantrums, you have to like elbow drop you're literally like choking them out to get them into the seat. And
you're like shoving their waist down to be able to buckle them and all stuff. I don't miss that at all.
Because I didn't know if like when they started, when Cameron's going into the like acting stage or is whatever, like does she still function? But it's just cranked up and loud.
Yeah. It's like
exactly. Becomes like basically dead weight. I was curious.
Nah, not really dead weight. So
because I bet a lot of parents can relate to that.
Yeah, dead weight is the worst. Like you just can't get them to do anything. Like they won't even hold their legs under them, and they just like fall to the ground when you set them down.
Put your legs down at the.
And I'm like you just want to choke them out at that point.
My kid comes up to me constantly. He's like, I can't walk. I'm like, as I walk away from him, I can't walk. I'm like, hey. You're walking right now. You need to be grateful you got 2 legs you can walk.
So she turns it on with the acting all stuff, and I nipped it in the butt immediately. She slept in her own bed, and I was like, you were faking it, you little punk.
So how did you do it?
I was like, no, like it's time to get in bed. She knew I was dead serious. Like I wasn't messing around because
you had dad look.
She got her like way the night before, and I think she knew. She's like, I probably shouldn't push it. Like I got what I wanted last night. I'll give it a night. Like literally, she's so smart with this. It's unbelievable. And like,
okay, so she you put her in her place. She got in her own bed. What happened Friday night?
Friday night, I can't remember. There was a few nights of like decency. Last night though, this whole weekend was blurred because it was like something. Friday night was we had Black Friday. That was like a busy day for us. Everyone was doing things. We were doing something here.
You went and saw Santa.
Oh, that's right. I left early. We went and saw Santa, and then all that stuff. No big deal. She slept in her own bed that night. I don't remember if there was any drama. Saturday, Matt and I went to the Carolina-Clemson game, which was we had a lot of fun. But boy, Carolina got crushed. Like we sucked so bad. I can't remember what the score was. It was like 3-27 or something. Like we got destroyed. Like the first couple of plays, I was like, dang, we might have a good game. Like this might be good. And then it was just all downhill from there. Right. But it was fun. Yeah, I don't remember. There was like the on and off, like my stomach hurt stuff, but nothing that serious. Oh. I remember coming back Saturday from the game, and Brandy had taken the beds back apart, and Cameron and Brandy got into it, and Cameron starts with this, well, no one likes me anymore, and I don't want to talk to anybody for 4 days. Like, okay. So she wanted her bed back in her own room again. So we had for a little while, we had like turned Cameron's room into like the playroom, and then they had their beds in the other room. The whole thing, it's like a constant just shit show. It's so frustrating. Anyways, I'm like, oh, you got your bed back in your own room. This is sweet. Like, we're making moves, huh? She's like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I was like, all right, see ya.
Bye.
Good, I got things to do anyway.
Exactly.
And so Brandy's like, I'll tell you about it later. I'm like, okay. So then I get the scoop on that, and it was like somebody started with an attitude, and then it was just like everyone hates everyone.
And so then last night you guys hit the wall.
I get her in bed. We brush teeth, get her in bed, good night, whole routine. I walk out, and I'm like, it's like 8:39. I get in my bed. I'm like, I'm about to pass the F out. I'm so tired. Like, it has been a long week. Everyone's pulling at me from other directions. We're finishing construction over here. We're trying to move. We're trying to move things from the old shop to the new shop, and I'm just done. I'm like, it's 8:40. I'm going to bed. Here comes little footsteps through the house. Daddy, I'm thinking I'm going to throw up. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, all right, come on, let's go into the bathroom. Because I thought she was for real. Because I hadn't heard anything about this. And all of a sudden, and then it's like, it starts up. She's crying. She's holding her throat, telling me her stomach hurts. And then she's going to throw up. So for like 2 hours, she's like trying to throw up. She's unbelievably upset and crying. Like award-winning acting going on here? And I'm like, nope, 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 nope. Get back in bed. We're not playing these games. I don't believe you. Let me tell you about the boy that cried wolf for the 30th time. Like, went through everything I could think of, and she's still going. I just want to go to the doctor and find out what's wrong with me. I'm like, let's go take some medicine. She refuses to take medicine. Let's talk about medicine for a second. I'm pissed about this. Why in the world do they still make cherry-flavored medicine?
That's a good question.
For kids. Like, adults don't like it. Kids don't like it. It ruins medicine taking for everybody always since the beginning of time. So even if it's grape or bubble gum, they still think it's cherry flavored. Like, I'm not taking it. Why do they still make cherry flavored medicine? It's outrageous.
I did see
It's so bad.
I saw a video where like a lady was like pretending like they was giving a kid a Capri Sun.
Yeah,
and
like
slips it up there. Hopefully, it looked like it was purple, so I bet it was grape.
Right,
but it wasn't cherry. No,
but
you're
like,
absolutely right.
what the crap?
I mean, do you even like cherries? Just
no.
I mean,
but like, why do they still? It's like the main like if there's a company that makes medicine and they make it for kids, like, and it's one flavor, it's gonna be cherry. Like, why? What's wrong with grape or bubblegum or orange? Like, get rid of the cherry. Just take it out.
Yeah.
I'm contacting the FDA.
We need to have a T-shirt made that's like, get rid of cherry.
Oh my god, it's so bad. Nobody wants to take that.
No.
Like,
I'd love for the one person who's listening to put a comment down that says cherry is your actual flavor of choice. If you had any other option, they need whiskey flavored. That would be good medicine to take.
For you.
Well, yeah, no, put it for the kids, man. Put them to bed real quick.
Anyways, so we go through the whole medicine thing. I just want to go to the doctor, and Brandy had made a doctor's appointment from that previous Wednesday when she was actually sick, but like couldn't get her in until later this week. So
just because of the holiday.
Right. So this is like just standard. I was not like. So then last night she's like, I just want to go to the doctor. I'm like, well, the doctor's closed. She's like, but I just want to. I'm like, cool. Let's go to the hospital. I'll take you to the ER right now. We'll go find out what's going on. Because if you won't take the medicine I'm going to give you, like, they're going to have to give you medicine. I don't want shots. I don't want shots. I'm like, well, it's either like the Pepto to help your stomach, or we can go to the ER. And she's like, I am not taking that medicine. That's what made me throw up last time. I'm like, girl, I'm about to elbow drop you from the top rope right now. Like, I'm coming in hot. Like, this is about to be a real problem. And then I'm like, I'm in her bed with her. And then finally, like, she was trying to stay out of her bed by pretending to throw up. So we hung out in the bathroom at the sink. She was like hanging out at the toilet, like everything to not get in her bed. So I'm like, no. Back in your bed. I bring her a little trash can. And she's like, no, this isn't comfortable for me. I'm like, this isn't about comfort. You're going to sit in your bed. If you feel sick, you have a trash can here. Here's another sip of water. It is time for bed. It is 11:30 at night. This is outrageous. And like, I'm just like at my wit's end.
Now,
in the meantime, Brandy's texting me from our bedroom, like, what's going on in there? I'm like, and she can hear it, right? Yeah. She's like, this is effing crazy. This is ridiculous. What do we do? I don't know what to do. I'm like, just stay in the room. Because Brandy comes in. She comes in hot, like screaming.
Well, sometimes.
But at the same time, I felt so bad and so guilty because I'm like, well, what if she actually doesn't feel good? And then she doesn't think that anybody cares about her. And that turns into like a lifelong, like burned in her head problem. And I don't want that to be the memory of childhood of like, no one ever believed me when I was sick and I was actually sick, and like, I'm only 8 and they're making me deal with puking on my own. And like all these things start running through your head. And so then I'm like, trying to be like super nice and sweet and like a loving father, and then being a hard ass at the same time of like not letting her get her way. It's so hard. So Brandy's like, do I just need to start taking her to therapy so she'll sleep in her own bed? I'm like, no, we're not taking her to therapy. Like, I'm going to go to therapy.
Just because I want to lay on that couch and go to sleep.
Right. Like,
I'm buying myself an hour right now.
Yeah. But like, it's so crazy because I'm like, dang, like I don't want there to be like future resentment because Daddy wouldn't take care of me when I was sick. I was actually sick. But like, no one believes her because she's fine, you know? Yeah. And she was just, all she could muster up was like spitting in the sink, like she was going to throw up. And then she kept saying she had to go to the bathroom. She would just sit there. She'd go to pee on the toilet. and then back to holding her throat, saying her
Now,
stomach hurt.
so we just started dealing with. So the boys are in out of cribs. They're in kind of that transition bed. Actually, I just bought them like twin beds, but I haven't set them up yet. But so they can obviously get out of their bed, open the door, and actually go about the house if they really wanted to, especially if we were asleep. And so we just started dealing with what seems like night terrors, like the night terrors. And what our doctor, I'm gonna maybe butcher this a little bit, but I believe it's something like kids don't actually truly have nightmares until they're like 5 to 7.
Well, I deal with that all the time
But
too,
it's like the night terrors are real. Like they have that, I guess, a terror, but they don't like have the dream of a nightmare as we.
It's
think
just
of
like a
it.
fear.
Yeah, it's
fear-based like thought or something. But
something like that.
Yeah.
And what the doctor told us too is like when they truly have that, it takes like 20 to 30 minutes for them to calm down from that. But now we're getting to the point where it's like, I want water, I want this, I want that.
Manipulation,
starting it, and we like,
so
and
hard.
of course, we were dealing with the same thing. I'm like, all right, when are they faking it? When are they not? How do they not manipulate us? But how do we make sure they know that they can't just get away with stuff? And so we were pushing real hard on like the emergencies, if you want to call it that, for getting out of your bed are if you feel sick, like you're gonna vomit, if you or your brother are, because they sleep in the same room, like if someone's injured or hurt or in pain, if you have to go number 1 or number 2, like you can get out of the room for that. Otherwise, like you need to stay in your bed. If you get out of your bed and like you keep doing this religiously, like we're just gonna lock the door.
Right.
And so we finally like they still keep getting out. So it's like the balance of like I was super tired and like he might have had a night terror and I was just like I'm not dealing with it. So you just get frustrated. You like slam the door. And it's like if you keep getting out, I'm gonna lock the door. So like I lock the door and of course he has a meltdown over it. But as a parent, you're like, well, I have to nip it in the bud because like this is just unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to learn. You have to learn, and the only
Right.
way you got to learn, like, here's a fire, touch it.
Yeah,
It's hot.
At
You
that
burn
age,
yourself.
To
you
me,
know? Like,
that age is a lot easier to do those kinds of things because you know that they're not going to remember that.
yeah, and that's what I was getting at. Is like, I've had those feelings of like I'm locking the door. This kid's banging. He's probably got bloody knuckles because he's trying to get out of here. But it's like I've warned you like 4 times at this point. Like at some point, like the only way, like you're in a safe place, I'm gonna lock you in your room.
Mm-hmm.
I got a camera in there. I can see if they're gonna be
Yeah.
unsafe. So it's like, but that was what the doctor said too. Is like especially at that tantrum, like during the day, it's like locking them in the room till they calm down because like there's no way of getting through to them at this age. But I was wondering, it's like, man, like does my kid think that like he's gonna be sick, but he can't get out of his room because if he gets out of his room, mom and dad are gonna beat him. You know what I mean? And but yet, like you said, like my kids are young enough where like it's gonna make an impression on them in the sense that like this is what I can and can't do. When he got out of the room to actually like throw up, like it was like I was almost like giving him gold stars and how like oh my god I'm so proud, like just like going like I was getting my acting on, you know what I mean, of like thinking like you would have thought that he just solved world hunger, you know what I mean. It was just like amazing, you threw up in the toilet and I didn't have to clean it up, like right. But to your point, like your kids are old enough to where it's like they understand what's right and wrong. You've instilled that. They know that their dad obviously loves them and is very involved. But then, like, if you actually were like, they get out of line, you pull their pants down, you slap them on the behind, like they remember dad hit them,
right? Because they didn't feel good.
Because they didn't feel good in their mind. And you're like, so how do you balance that while balancing just the frustrations of like you're just full of crap? Like,
dude, it is literally the hardest thing I've been through is like this stage of trying to find that balance and riding that line. There's such a gray area because especially if they're good at it, like that's the problem. She's so good at it to like, you're questioning everything. You're like, I think she's full of it, but is she really? Like I think she's actually sick. And then you're like, no, I caught you right there. And even last night, I knew she was full of it, but I questioned it so many times, and eventually I was like, well, you tell me, like, what is going to help you feel better? And then it was like, well, I mean, I don't know. Do you have any other ideas? And I'm like, no, I don't. Here's my idea. You close your eyes and go to sleep, and you're going to feel amazing while you're sleeping. Yeah. No, I just can't. I can't. I'm going to throw up. I can't lay down. My stomach hurts every time I lay down. And I'm like, okay, well then what do you want me to do? We all have to get to sleep here. Now it's like after midnight. Like, what are we doing? Well, maybe if I like sleep on your floor. I'm like, So then we had a whole discussion, me, her, and Brandy at like 12:30 last night. Everyone's still up, and she's crying. And I'm like, if this whole thing was because you wanted to sleep on the floor, it was like, you can't just pull this off to sleep. Like, just tell me you want to sleep on the floor. We'll figure that out in a different way.
Yeah.
But don't put on this whole show about how you don't feel good just to accomplish sleeping on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to fly, you know? And it was like this whole thing. And then she started getting lip back with Brandy, and I got in her face. I was about to slap her in the face. I almost slapped her in the face.
Have you ever? Well, we don't need to answer that on record here.
I've smacked her in the face, not like a full-blown slap, but I've like, I guess tapped, like, I don't know, like a little like cheek slap, you know, of like,
because what I've
hey,
found
pay
is
attention to me because you're in trouble right now.
The hardest thing with, depending on the age that they're at, it's like they have such short attention spans, right? So like if they're doing something that's just like is wrong, you've warned them, and like they're at it, it's like sometimes you have to snap them back into reality.
Right.
So that's the question, is like you can't just like start raising your voice and yelling at them if you've already tried to like 3 times. They're like, please sit down. We don't stand up at the table. You need to sit down. You need to sit down. Like at some point, like how do you get through them? Like you're going to timeout.
Right.
Going to timeout. Like you kind of like, where's that line to start being like, all right, you know what? Like on the backside or something, like you just got to snap them back to reality. And you're like, Daddy loves you. You need to listen, and here's why. It's
for
hard
me. That's I've always popped them on the top of their head.
just to get their. You just got to try to get their attention.
Yeah, with just like my open hand fingertips. If you're listening, you can't see me, and just like pop them on the top of the head lightly. But like it's such an awkward feeling to get hit in the top of the head like that. They're like, whoa, what was that? And I'm like, hey, I said stop. You know, you're at the restaurant and they're acting crazy or whatever.
Well,
but
what I
like,
found is like, so
the
I've been,
only times I've ever like slapped her in the face is because she said something, verbally said something that was like not okay, whether that was talking back to Brandy or talking. She said something to my mom one time. My mom was like dropping, like my mom had taken her to church and she was dropping her off and she like talked back to my mom or something. And I like got down like in line with her face and slapped her in the face. Not like a, but like, you know what I mean? Just like a slapped her in the face. I was like, you do not say that. And you do not talk back to your grandmother that way.
Yeah.
And my mom was like shocked by it, I think. And she was like, it was awkward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's
well, it's
like,
not something you want to do, but you like, there's certain things that
it's
I've
only been
found
like
it's like
2 times.
that you gotta instill that that's just not acceptable. And
you have to be a parent. Like at the end of the day, all of this is to like set boundaries, teach them respect. I think that's what the society and all these like the young society of the millennials of the world currently that lack respect, that are trying to get away with so much, that are killing cops, that are like crazy things are happening because of the lack of respect. And what you and I are trying to do and what our company stands for is like teaching the youth respect and getting parents more involved to help teach respect across the board and all these different things. Because if they learn that they can just walk all over people and manipulate people and do all these things,
there's no consequences.
And there's no consequences, and they get away with what they want, it leads to just bad behavior for life, and it's not good.
No, it's not good for community, society.
It's nothing. Hey, I mean, it's just bad. It's cheating themselves. They're like, it's terrible. Anyways, I don't know. I'm starting to lose steam on my my situations. But you were talking about the night terrors and all that stuff. Let's end that conversation.
Yeah. Well, so we just thankfully I can say like the wife just kind of coming from the teacher background. It's like she just goes into teacher mode, which is kind of my backbone to make sure I can follow the rules too.
Right.
You know, but it's just like, all right, we've evaluated that you're not sick. You just want your water bottle because you've always had your water bottle in your bed. We're trying to break some of these habits, so it's like you're going to scream and fuss real bad for an hour and a half the first night. I'm going to tell you like 3 or 4 times. I'm going to warn you once I've calmed you down and reiterate, you're safe. Daddy loves you. You're not getting out of your bed. You get out of your bed one more time. I'm locking the door. You get out. I lock the door. They scream and fuss. Come back in like 15 minutes later after they've just lost their mind for 15 minutes to realize like I will follow through with what I say.
That's it.
Do you want to do this again? No. Okay. Shut the door and they don't come out again. You know.
Right. What you said was really interesting. I've talked about this a few times, but following through with what you say you're going to do for the people who haven't heard us say this before is how much like it sucks at the time because you have to actually follow through with I said I was going to spank you, or I said we're not going to go to that birthday party, or I said Santa's not coming, or I said this. But like if you have to follow through with it, you got to follow through with it. But then that helps build trust.
Yeah.
Like, well, Daddy's going to do what he says he's going to do. I trusted that's the case. More so for the bad side of it. Like, well, I know that he's got my back. He said he would save me from this, or this won't happen. And I trust that.
If Daddy says I'm safe in this room, then I am safe.
Right. It kind of goes both ways, right? So it's very frustrating.
But I mean, there's nothing worse than like closing the door behind your kid, knowing that he's probably going to get out and start beating on the door, thinking that he's basically dying, you know, in their mind. And you're sitting on the other side of the door knowing that I could easily solve this problem. I could just open the door. I could lay next to their bed, put my hand on them, tell them everything's wonderful and everything else. But like, I'm not going to do that entire life.
It's so hard to stick
here's
what's
going to happen.
You're going to give in.
You just boom, like that's why I got the wife.
She's gangster.
She is incredible when it comes to the we're gonna break this cycle. Call me mean mom, but they are going to listen. They are gonna know that they're in a very loving and a happy family, but you're not gonna be able to pull this crap off. And it's been about 2 weeks now of like intermittent stuff, but over the holiday, because our daycare didn't have like it was a full week off, so like a lot of people, you know, schools, it was like they had school Wednesday or half day or you know whatever else, and then it was like Monday off, Tuesday, so it was like by like Thursday night, they were just like not enough structure.
Yeah.
So like the evenings played into them, you know, just kind of being all over the map, like still like strict bedtime routines and everything else, but like
so much structure.
They just, you know, it was like, well, I want this and I want that, and oh, can I get a cup of water? Oh, I'm sad. Oh, and you're like, no, like you can be sad. You can like I walked in last night and my son Max was like, I'm sad, Dad. And I was like, all right, why are you sad? Well, Mommy told me I couldn't do this. I'm like, well, Mommy's right. You're allowed to be sad. Like, go sit on the couch and like, you know, dwell, reflect on this. But you ain't gonna be able to do that. So this is a good emotion to start experiencing because things in life will be sad.
Right.
You're not going to get your way, and you need to learn how to cope with that. And you're not going to get dad or mom to be the coping mechanism to help you get through all of your problems. And it just sucks as a parent when you actually care about your children to be like, well, I could give him a hug. I mean, I did give him a hug, but then it's
Well, I could
well,
probably
hold me,
solve this
and you're
make
like,
him happy.
well, no. Like, I've got 2 other children that need some attention, too. Like, you're not hurt. You're just a little sad. Let's talk about why you're a little bit sad. Okay, but you know what? Like, Nico and Anders and I are going to go build with magnets. So you can be sad over here, or you can realize that you need to listen to what your mom said. Do that next time.
And come
but
play with magnets.
But there's an open invitation to have fun with us on the floor here. Eventually, it comes around with it. But that's been it at night. It's like trying to transition between like, you know, like, all right, night terrors are real. I'm going to come assist you in those, realizing now that I've learned from the doctor that like it takes like 20, 30 minutes for them to come down. So I can't just come in, you've freaked out and be like, all right, shut up and go to bed, and then slam the door and expect them not to just be losing their, you know, marbles in their room. Like, all right, well, that's good to know. It sucks. It's 1:30 and I really want to be asleep, but like, I'll give you 10 minutes, but like, okay, you're calm. We're cool. If it's not an emergency, you need to keep her behind in this bed. Like, these are the rules. And did you ever? So we have the clock that has the different colors on it based on the time. Did you guys do that?
No, but I saw like a.
We named him Ricky, so I'm gonna call him Ricky. Ricky the clock. Actually, my kids obviously named him Ricky.
Ricky Bobby.
So Ricky, it's like Ricky's orange. That means that it's like I think Ricky turns orange at like 6:45. And so the idea was like if they open the door, you can set the time. So it was like at 6:45 we turn like the clock, like the ring around the face of the clock turns orange. So if they get out of bed and they open up the door and they see that it's not orange, that's the indication that like you don't leave your room. Stay in your room And quite honestly, like, if it's not orange, you need to get back in your bed. That's the thing we've been harping on.
Right.
Get back in your bed, lay quietly, doesn't matter. But, like, again, short of an emergency, like, you're in bed. And then once it's orange, it's like, look, you can get out, you can play in your room, you can do whatever you want to do within the room. And it's once Ricky's green at 7:15, then you can come out and face the day, aka our parents, because we've now officially had coffee. So, and it's been working. It's been working well, and I think the reason it's working well is just because we're just sticking to it so consistently while trying to reiterate, like, if you're hurt or if you're sick or if you need to go to the potty, you're allowed to leave your room. Just don't abuse it, because once you abuse it, then it's like, I'm going to lock the door and you're going to pee all over yourself, because, like, you're going to learn that, like, unfortunately for the parent, I have to clean up this mess. And I don't want to clean up that mess, but I got to prove a point that, like, you can't abuse it, and then the one time you need it, expect me just to jump through hoops and hurdles to be able to, like, solve your problem. Like, well, don't create all this BS up in the front end. Like, you got to learn that. And that might come with you actually having a tummy ache and me calling BS on it because, well, you lied to me 4 other times. Hey, here's the life lesson from that. Yep. Don't lie to me.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, you don't care about me. No, Daddy loves you. I will continually take care of you. But let's reflect. You lied to me 4 times, which is why I just locked your happy ass in the room. So are you going to continue to lie to me? No. Okay. 1 warning. 2 warnings. 3rd time. Remember what happened last time when you kept lying to me? You know, and then the next time it's 1 warning, 2 warnings. And the next time it's, here's your 1 warning. You know, depending on the age.
Yeah, of course.
And then it's like after that, it was just like, I think it was last night, I was like, if you get out of your bed, I'm just going to lock the door because there's nothing wrong with you. He didn't get up.
Yeah. Mornings is another one we've been struggling with. And that's why that clock was interesting, which then made me realize that I can use the Philips Hue lights that are in their bedrooms that I can schedule to turn colors at certain times.
That might be an option. The thing I would warn you against is, like, what if your kids actually sleep in one day?
But you can turn the dimness down to like 1%. So, like, if this little light's glowing this color. Anyways, but the clock thing sounds interesting. But my kids are old enough they can tell time, though. So, like, I just put a clock. Like,
so that's it. So, like, it's just like, they're like, well, what time are you going to wake me up for my nap? It's like 4:00. Right. So, like, granted, we actually have ours in military time. So I'm trying to be like, all right. So, like, 16:00. But, I say military time, but just 24-hour clock. But, you know what I mean? It's like, so at 1,600 hours, you can get up. Right.
Yeah. It's crazy stuff, man. It's just crazy. There was something else you said that triggered a thought in my head.
I was going to say, but as it relates to the clock, though, like, it doesn't do any good if you're not consistent on it.
Right, right.
It's just really like everything else with parenting.
Dang, what was the thing I was going to say? I can't remember. But this is a great time to plug our new shirts. So you can get the new Embrace the Suck shirt.
It's true. I mean, like I said, like, things that you just don't hear about when you're like, so going back to what we originally started with like vomit and smells, it's like you go from a world of like, let's say you're in your mid-20s or early 30s when you have your first kid, right? And you're like, you've had this life of not having to kind of deal with this kind of stuff. And the next thing you know, you're like, here's all the smells that you're not used to. You know what I mean? Here's just the sucky parts that you never see on Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
Well, you know why? Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
The sucky parts you don't see on Instagram. This is what I wanted to say that I forgot that now I remember, and I need Travis to edit this back into a clip somewhere else later so that because this is important. So I'm dealing with all these things with Cameron and her acting sick and throwing up and hugging the toilet and doing all these things, and I'm like, I wanted to put this on Instagram because it was real life. Like, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. Like, there's shitty moments, right? So, like, there was a point where I grabbed my phone with the intention of, like, I'm going to take a picture or a video of, like, a selfie style, her in the background, like, puking in a toilet. And then I took my phone out, and she realized what I was doing. She's like, you better not put this on the internet. That hurt. Because I was like, shit. She is far too old, like, because to me that's like, it's almost like shaming.
So, yeah, I was gonna say, you're almost bullying her in a way. Yeah.
And I was like, damn, she's right. I shouldn't, but at the same time, like, if she was much younger, if she was like under 4, I would, because
Cause now you're more trying to share with the community and other parents, and,
Right.
And that's like this, like
But
you're
now,
not the only one up at 12:30 dealing with the kid.
And because that 4-year-old doesn't understand like what's happening. I don't know if this sounds like right or wrong, but a 4-year-old isn't going to have their feelings hurt by this. My 8-year-old is like, now I'm on the internet for throwing up and crying. This hurts my feelings. This is a negative effect on her, and that hurt. I was like, oh my God. So now I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. So, but then
That's
again,
crazy,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Because now you're like, but you're also trying to balance like, well, you're pretending.
True, but I can't post that.
Oh,
with her
absolutely.
saying that,
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh, no, absolutely.
Like-
but I'm just like,
So the
trying
best
to
I
think,
can
yeah.
do to share my experience on this shit is the podcast and telling my story that way.
Yeah.
Like in the moment, and for her to like voice her opinion like that, no way I could ever do that. Like,
oh no.
God, it's crazy, man. Like everything's so crazy.
I'm just.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just a whole new parenting element. Hadn't actually thought about. You know what I mean? Because again, like you keep constantly hearing the news and everything else about cyberbullying, which is true
Real.
because stuff that we used to be able to get away with, we could have we could sit down in our chair and like rip our pants in high school even, you know what I mean? And like it's embarrassing that day, like, oh man, like I ripped my pants and everyone's like, oh, like whatever, like a fat joke or something about you,
Yeah.
like whatever, like it would wear off and you kind of move on with your life, you know what I mean? You're more embarrassed than like, because you, in your own little high school mindset, you're more important in your own head than the rest of the community really thinks, right?
Yeah.
But now it's like someone's gonna videotape that or take a photo of it, and then you have to relive it as soon as you get home. It's like it's not as soon as you get home you take off your pants and you're like, whew, pants are fixed.
Right. Well,
It's over with,
Gary Vee made a great analogy about this recently. He was like, everyone's got their own shit, right? This is one of his big things, and I don't think we talked about this when he was on our podcast, but he made an analogy. Maybe it's another video where I heard him say this, but like you go to school, you're in high school, whatever. You're super self-conscious. You're aware about yourself. You have a pimple on your face, and like you don't want anybody to see you because you're worried about this pimple on your face. But what you fail to realize is everyone has a pimple on their face, and everyone's worried about their own pimple. No one cares about your pimple.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of the same thing where it's like the cyberbullying, where like you're so concerned because you ripped your pants or whatever, but like really no one actually cares about that. Like you're more aware of it, more self-conscious about it.
But to that point, it's like but now it lives on
forever.
So people are able to just
True.
comment on it and bring more attention to it than it actually needed or we ever
Warranted,
had to ever had to experience, which makes a whole new like element of parenting that it's almost like not enough data on it. You know what I mean? Because society's changing so fast. It's like you should put your phone down and do this, and then like thankfully in my home, like I'm not attached to my phone, so I'm not concerned about my kids ever trying to be like, hey, like pay attention to me, for example, be on your phone. But what I'm thinking of the dynamic is like someone who's older, where it's like, hey, like don't do that. You need to focus on your homework or this, that, and the other, and then the parent gets on their phone. It's like, well, it's kind of like, well, don't smoke cigarettes while you smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Kind of
lead by example.
analogy.
Yeah.
But it's like no manual for it. It's like, but the manual's constantly just being ripped up and changed because society's changing so much. So getting back to the core values, right, of just trying to instill some of those basic, morals and everything else to like, try to just parent the best you can with the type of kid you have and not worry about everyone else's opinion. And that's really all you can do.
Yep. That's it.
It's so much easier, like, again, talking about the, it's easy to make fun of and judge someone with the ripped pants because it's on Instagram now, than it was before. But it's like you need to focus on your own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be judging everyone else,
It's just so right?
Yeah.
Like when I mentioned that, like, Daddy, don't put that on the internet, or you better not do that. Like, does that blow your mind? Like,
yeah,
it's like, holy shit, a whole nother perspective of like WTF.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Because you definitely don't want to had that as like the lasting memory. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and it's like a trust thing too. Like, well, I told you not to do that. Don't do that. And like, if I actually did it, then there goes all the trust I've been working so hard to gain. It takes forever to gain trust and like 2 seconds to lose it.
Absolutely.
You know, it's
That's the one thing I think my dad always told me when I like, especially in high school when you're finally driving. It's like, you know, you have my trust until you lose it,
and it don't take much to lose it.
Nope.
It takes one.
Like I told you to be home at 11:30. Now, if we got a flat tire or something, like we can talk about that. But like otherwise, it's called planning.
Right.
Well, there was traffic or whatever. It's like, well, guess what? You should have thought that through because your employer doesn't care.
Right.
You know, the school doesn't care. If class starts at 8, you have to get your happy ass up and get to class to be there on time.
Yeah.
Plan accordingly. You gotta learn that at a young age. So I don't care unless you were doing something to help someone else out. Like you should have been actually home at 11:15 if I told you it was 11:30 because you planned accordingly.
Right. Cool. That was a good talk, man. There's a lot of like, it's just crazy stuff. I hope you guys get some value out of this conversation because like the things that we're dealing with are like real. I don't want to scare you guys away from the, like, as your kids get older, if your kids are younger, maybe you're past this point, you have some advice for us. We would greatly appreciate that. And you can leave it in the comments below.
Yeah.
But like, it's just bonkers. But the other thing I mentioned briefly was the new t-shirts. We have a bunch of new apparel available on the website now, and you can check that out. Embrace the Suck. We brought that t-shirt back. There's a couple versions, a couple different colors of that one amongst several other shirts, women's t-shirts and men's t-shirts. And like, there's like 15 new options between styles, designs, and colorways and things like that. So go check those out for sure. Holidays are coming up, so we got some sales and promotions and things happening through the holiday season. If you want to know more about that, you can sign up on the new text platform. It's a fun thing. It's actually me that you can text with there, and you can enter through that platform by texting Intel to 29071, and I'll send you guys some updates on like what's happening there, and even maybe probably notify you of like new podcast episodes and things like that. So we're having a lot of fun there. And again, you can like reply to those and we can actually talk if you want to. And what else? That's about it, right?
Yeah, just good luck getting into the holidays.
Yeah. We're going to do a gift guide soon over the next week or so. So if you're trying to find a gift for your husband or wife, hopefully we have a solution for you. Probably none of our products. We're not trying, but just like other random stuff. So my wife and I have selected several, a handful of products for men and women that might help you find a good gift for your significant other. So make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel for that. That's about it. Awesome. Guys, thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Make sure you leave the likes, ratings, comments, thumbs ups, subscribe buttons, all the things. We'll see you in the next episode.